Hello and welcome. It is the 8th day of July 2019. My name is Derek. All bets, trades of the like within each his own risk and their own reward. Although I'm not going to really go over too much. In fact, a lot of this is just mainly going to be towards TradingView and really within this new package, which is not only going to remove the advertisements but add a few extra little features here and there. But just want to go over a few little gadgets here and there. But first, on Bitcoin dominance, I drew this line in earlier at 67.39. And I was saying before, I thought before it was going to go down, it might hit this first kind of deal. So we'll see here now. I mean, the setup does look as if it's got a good chance of going there as it is leaving the 18 average of highs as it is. Bitcoin just having a tremendous run today. Its price action is in at 12,208 as it's now looking to leave this 18 average that it's been in for a little bit. It tried to do so here barely. Now it's barely done so. We'll see if it's able to do so, if it's able to have any decent further momentum. Most certainly not a clear break above it yet, but definitely just that in a break. Today's up move so far is 6.42%. And in viewing such within the shorter term time frame, what we're going to take a look at is with the other Fibonacci lines. Are they doing anything coming into play right now? Well, here we have it. It's hitting this line. Single hour term time frame. Well, we'll see how it works. I figured this would be an area of potential resistance. I mean, it's just luck in my book that it just has a straight up move and it just happens to do it in and around that area. I mean, look at this. It missed it by a few basis points here. I mean, what good is these lines? Okay, shaking my head, all that type of stuff. All right. So anyway, moving on forward, I got these extra time frames at the 4 minute, 8 hour, all this extra stuff because within the I got the the medium package. There's a low cost. I mean, they're all expensive, but depending on how much it can make you, it could be cheap as well. And there's the medium, low, and high cost. And I did the 1 month on the medium cost. And one of the ones that was really intriguing me was doing the ratios. And they were like, oh, do the thing like you can see how much Apple is to like Amazon. And they just like put those letters together. Like, okay, well, let's just try this APLAM or A's. Well, well, just anything. IBM, I know this symbol. I do this, I push enter, and then nothing would come up. Like, well, how do you do it? So I ended up then saying what they would we used. I sent them a ticket support. I was going to say email, kind of still is, and they got back to me, and then they're basically saying you got to divide the two together. Oh, so if you go like AAPL divided by AIBM, well, it was it. Yeah, there we are. So there we have what the ratio there is. So on the monthly chart, the ratio for Apple IBM would like look something like this. Now, does it work for cryptos? It works for everything together pretty much. I can see what the Apple ratio is with Litecoin if I so desire. For I could go AAPL divided by LTC. I'm going to have to pick which one, and it's going to be in the dollar exchange. So we can pick, say, the Bitstamp one, which would have the most data. Push enter. And there's your Apple versus Litecoin cross. If I want to know what the price of the gold and Litecoin happens to be, I can go, or silver rather, I was thinking. But even still, let me just do gold. I want to do the most expensive one first, because then I get a positive number over one. But I can go gold, which is I'm used to, so I'll take like gold. I could just click it, and then I could just well, there's gold chart. Now I can divide it by say we'll go LTC USD, and we'll take the Bitstamp exchange because it's got the most data. And this is the monthly chart. So right now, it takes 11 and a half Litecoins to buy an ounce of gold. You can see it on the daily chart. Some of these moves in here. So there's your move up, there's your move down, and all that sort of stuff in here as well. Now, what I found interesting, now I did reply back on the comments saying thank you, everything's fine, it's working, and got what I was looking to get done on it. And so what I've done is and this is a little nitpick. This is so wide because of when I go in here, I go to ratio trading, and I've added every single ratio that I have. And this is in the same order that I have it in my spreadsheet because it's the same chronological order I had it in to begin with anyway. So I can go ahead and I can take a look at the arc and theta cross. So now every single ratio trade that I want to pair, I can take a look at it in this way. I can see this on the 3-day term time frame. And all of these up and down back choppy moves, they're the types of moves that, of course, I'm looking to take advantage of, especially when you're playing them on a shorter term time frame. Now, what it looks like is just going out and buying the 1 year package immediately might be a big mistake. As I just bought it for 1 month. I mean, if this wasn't going to work on the ratio, it was either taking the cheaper, the simplest or the cheapest package, which is the Pro, and just see how it goes. But this is the Pro Plus, and all of a sudden now I get this, oh, unlock 6 months for free. Well, the way it normally works is it's $29 for 1 month, or per month, every month you pay. Of course, if you pay on a annual basis, it was telling me it was 25, I think. Well, now they're telling me it's 15, which is technically cheaper than I mean the Pro Plus is the same price as this now. I find that really kind of interesting at that point. So I could say, yeah, I just want it for the whole year, and I would have ended up spending like 25 a month for 12 months. Now I'm going to spend 29 or 30 for one, and then 15 for the next 12, which really looks good. Now there is one small nitpick that I don't like. Now it's like, and I was saying before, I probably don't need the alerts. No, not me. Not going to need them. Well, just a little bit of a nitpick in here. The amount of alerts that you're allowed. Okay, where is it? Look, I'm just trying to find the number. So the number's 30, I think it is. 30 right here. I'm allowed 30 alerts. Well, the easiest way for me to do this would for me to be like, okay, let's just assume we're here on the 3-hour term time frame. And when you look at this up and down choppy action back and forth, some of these wicks may not be, could be higher or lower than actuality, but the closes should always be accurate. And when you look, just up and down movements are good. But say, for example, you make a trade right now, or you even enter a position now. You're like, okay, if it comes up here, I want to make a trade. So this will come up. I'll click on this, and this warning comes up because of its a ratio that it may not be accurate, but it's you just have to just push it twice. But you do it all the time. But then be like, okay, if it goes down there, I want to sell, and if it comes down here, then I want to buy. That means I need 2 per trading set. And that means I don't have to do anything but just let it do its thing. This will give me I can't show. I can show it here. This thing here would give me a little color telling me it's going off, and of course I get the beep 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 sound. If I log into the computer for the first time, I'll get beep sounds originally when you do so and all that, so I'll know when something happens. It's just when I got 25 or 24 different crosses, I would need 2 per cross. And obviously you can see that that wouldn't be able to complete it as I would need to do so for that. So yeah, just a little nitpick amongst that level there. Now some of these ratios can just get very, very wild, and we can really see how the 2017 moves have worked in effect back in that time frame. But let's just take a look at, well, right now we'll take a look at the one in here that's got really long-term data, which is GRS and DGB. And these moves, whatever, you can just take it for what it's worth as far as the how nice the candle art looks. But As far as price action is concerned, you can get still a good idea to the situation. But with multiple time frames, here we have the daily chart, and it's like up, not really doing much, but what's the size of the range? And it's not great, but it's playable. We have resistance often tested near around 35. We have support often tested at around 27. So the differential's over 20% with a little bit extra on this move in here. But when we scale this to the 3-day time frame, it's, well, I guess technical analysis is telling us we're supporting this area here. But this is a long period in here from August of 2018 all the way through March of 2019. We're just stayed in this very tight consolidation of 19 and a half through that of 26. So all you can do is just grindingly make extra coins back and forth in the ratio trade. There's nothing really more in my strategy that's going to come along of that time frame. Weekly chart. When we take a look at it from this perspective in here, we have this low at 294, like 37, down to 56, up to 25, down to 5. I mean, this is just crazy, crazy movements. Now what I can do, and approximately 45 minutes has passed, as my steak and potatoes, they were very, very good. Dinner time came and passed. And during that time, I see here, alert, Litecoin, Bitcoin, which is just dividing the two, and another little features that I wish I could do on here. So I'll push OK, which tells me, of course, that I'm not going to click it, but it tells me that this one here has got crossed that number that I'm looking for. I wish I could edit these because let's just look at these numbers here. I would like to rename this how I'd want to. I'd just pretty much delete the BTCs. Just LTC/Atom would work. And then, do I need this many decimals? And of course, it's crossed in on 2 different times. I definitely wish I could edit. I've been trying like so many different things in here. Okay, I wanted the GRS. Let's go back to that. But I tried like right-clicking it. There's nothing here for editing. Nothing here for editing the list. If I go into here, I don't see anything. But what I'm planning on doing here is I was going to do the hourly time frame, and I thought after, as I was leaving, pausing it, that's just too. The 3 hours definitely beneficial for what I'm looking for. Because what I'm trying to do, and just another thing here too, you can see here, this turned into red. I got a few of them on here, not too many. But the one that passed was, see this here it says yellow, so I can just delete that. But what I'll do is I'm just going to scroll this out to the maximum, let it load, and then just go back and forth like this. And I'll just pause the tape because it's going to take some time to get there. It takes a couple minutes. And there's a time here. It most certainly didn't take a couple minutes, more like several seconds only. But so this is what things were looking like as 2016 was coming close to an end on the 3-hour term time frame. So we look at the ratio differential numbers here. You go 7 down to 3. Scroll a few periods out. And here from January 8th, a nice pattern of higher highs and higher lows. Volatility. Close to 3 to like firmly trading at 15. Firm comeback here to 10 and change. Okay, firm comeback to 11 and change, I should say. And when I say firm, that means I can tell it would have been very easy to trade at that 11 number back at that day. Just like in here, it would have been very easy to trade at around 15. That doesn't mean you might have got lower thinking, okay, that was high enough. That's not. I'm just saying that it's not like, oh, if I could have got, say, 17, I would have. And maybe you couldn't have got 17 back on January at that time frame. But then, oh, well, it continued. It got higher. Got up to 33. Pulling back. And then the pullback losing half its value. But Bitcoin crosses will do the same thing as well. Now, how much I want to validate this low close, I don't know. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But most certainly, we know for sure that 24 was a base price in here. And even for the next day, it was 25. And then this little consolidation range is in the 16s. So that's your volatility. And then just little moves in here. 41 down to 22, up to 70. And now we're in April. Now this is when things were going wild, but not so much for this. But yeah, a little bit of moves here and there. But even the small one here, 42 up here, down to 30. Just this little bit that we see in here. It's not much of a move, but in technicality, mathematics, it's definitely got some leg room to it. And then it just falls like hard. Okay, 26 down to 1. Oh, even down further, down to 0.56. Small will move to 2. And then, yeah, let's go back up to 10. Back up to 31. I mean, this is just wild, wild, wild movements. If I can get some sort of sustained movements back and forth like this again, and it really hasn't been showing in any crosses really for like this. But when you can get this kind of movements, wow, wow, that's good. I'm going to fast forward this to the end and just going to show you how fast this goes just for fun. Okay, whatever. Atom versus Litecoin. Let's see what the story here is now, which is Cosmos. So I had one of those quick little moves. Did I miss any? What's it look like on the 1 minute? See, that's that thing they were talking about in here. So I really never, excuse me, I never had anything come into play that would have given me the trade. 3 hour term time frame. And we can see all these people wanting to exchange Litecoin for Cosmos because this is what the volume is. People that ratio trade the market. That's what the software will do. It will determine people like me that are flipping it back and forth and then adjust the ratio accordingly. And don't believe that. That's BS. That's just, and you probably shouldn't have. No, they don't do that. It's probably just the sum of the two volume, I would assume, but it does give you a good idea. Now within some of this, one of the funds is the OK Cash, which is a cheap coin. So if we take like an expensive one, like say Monero, and go that. Hey, we'll take a look at Monero. We want an older exchange because I want data. I'll use Bittrex because I'm going to use OK Cash. Okay, so this is what Monero looks like. Let's just take a look at it in 3 day. I guess it's normal Bitcoin cross. Okay, it's doing its thing. Let's now go like this and / OK BTC. Okay. And what do we see here? I mean, I might as well just go ahead and use the weekly here. It's got so much data. It's been when you can get the chopping like this. This is a good chart for trading long term. And technically speaking, you would be kind of hoping it goes down if you just want this to do really one thing. That is have a high, a low, that it never breaches ever, ever. It stays within it for its entirety. Oh, it can holding and staying above, of course, right here. It has held and stayed below this. It is not. It is not. Let me repeat that. It is not allowed to break it. Now, if it does, I can give it the benefit of the doubt to extend it, and extending volatility is in gameplay. It's a good thing. Meaning, originally it was this high in here from 2015, but then we had all of this nonsense. No, real sense because it happened. Whatever. Well, now this is the range. So as long as it stays between 262 and 4,582.30862.936, those decimals are important. No, they're not. But as long as it stays within this range, it's all fine and dandy. But let's look at this further. When you have any of these kinds of swings like this, oh, was there any way of taking this low? Well, we'll look at it 2 ways. One, you can't tell by this because of what any intraday swing move will look like. Again, the closes is essentially them taking one and dividing by the other, so it kind of is accurate that way. And the intraday moves, especially on the ratios. I mean, I look at it when I do it. When I take my data with the open, high, low, close, I'm like, I can't do anything for intraday moves. How am I determine what an intraday move is? There's no mathematical way of me knowing. If I got the OHLC for whatever two coins for the exact same data time frame side by side, and I have many times before, and I can and do get them, then what am I can't tell. So I can get a daily, I can get it every period close, and that's what I do. So I know for sure that those levels can work out very, very well. But as far as what I see just off the bat here, that's 21.35. And if this low is legit, let's just see. That's just a good idea. I'll stick a line in here, and I'll take a look at this on the shorter term time frame. Because now I'm going to get the closes on the 3 hour. So I can see in here that this low, okay, well, it went below it, but at the 3 hour, it technically did go as low. Even the opens would count as well, too. So we would have been having prices in this area here of like 1600 change. That would have been definite, not level. But let's even look at the hourly. Did we get a lower than 1600 change? Well, I got a close here at 1489. And that's technically lower than this level. So that's even an extra pierce on that. Again, how do you calculate with just like those data what they could be? And well, if we go 4 minute term, what I can at least see that, yeah, at least from 2032 to this time frame, and even a brief period here, and not for much, well, I guess at least for this point here, that you were able to trade at this level. Now, okay, this is a really tough one because when you're trying to ratio trade something like OK BTC, you have no choice, nor to get the good price anyway. You have no choice but to be good at the order book. No, there's no uh, no ways otherwise. You have to be good at trading the book because when the spread differentials are are not good, you're oftentimes paying a little bit of an extra price. So in markets where, and oftentimes Binance really rules all these markets for such, when they got good tight spreads, it really doesn't make much of a difference. Which is why I heavily suggest with people just trade with Binance. Whatever they have for pairings, that's where you go. Especially in Canada because we don't have any of this. Oh, you got to stop trading next month. We don't have that here. And not like I talk to many people about it. It's unfortunate that I don't, but it's just how it is. But yeah, so that is that. Yeah, so we can see here that the opportunities were in play. It was at this point 2000. So even trading it, there some sort of big move happened amongst one of the coins going up and down. At least to a greater extent. That, of course, was with Bitcoin going down. Most likely, what happened was both coins would go down. Monero and OK and one going down much more. That being OK Cash getting hit much harder. But when we look at something of like, and I don't know what the prices of these were, but I think XDN was more expensive. Yeah, it's still on. This was very volatile. Oh, this is cheap. So let's just go OK first. And within this, you're probably going to see some monster volatility. It's at 36 and a half, so 4 minute time frame. You're getting the idea of where the prices have been. Just over the last, well, since yesterday night, it's been in a range, well, mainly trading between 35 high to 39. It's over 10%, but again, you have to play the order book. This in here, we got the range again. If you're playing it, you got to be so thankful it's breaking above this resistance if you're ratio trading it. Because I got this set up a lot of this game where, yeah, I don't care what the market does, goes up or down, whichever rate. I'm just going to trade the ratios back and forth. If one goes up, the other one goes down. So either way, something's going up. So when this went way down, the opposite cross went way up, whatever. But like I stated, I want the line, I want support down here, I want resistance up here, and this is a long time going from the 2018 lows and you're having this consistent support below the 10 number at 9 and change, and it's not able to get above the 18 point. But what that means is, as a ratio trader, all of this actuality, a time span from January, the start of 2018, completing 2 months ago, or over one and a third, we'll say 1 1/3 years, 15 some months. All you could be doing is just nicking away at some profits here and there within the trades. So mathematically, where you would be here as far as your trades back and forth with this coin, as long as you just stay with the game and don't do anything other than normal profit taking. And with the normal profit taking, your results are pretty much as it shows. You're doing a lot better than you were breaking down in here. You're not getting the gains you were getting back all the way in here, but you're still getting gains. But when we look at the situation, and I'm not going to use the 3-day for this, I'm just going to use the daily on this sense in here. When you get situations like this, where you're able to go from like 50 up to 233, and crash back down to 6, rise to 16, and meanwhile you're staying within that important range. Before that, you have 150 down to 8. And then you look at the situation of what your portfolio would look like in a situation of both being A, somebody like myself who can check the computer multiple times per day, or somebody who just checks once a day. It's a daily time frame. So if you're a once a day trader, especially if you're looking for decent sized moves in here, as this was going down, you buy. The lowest point it got to is 14. So this number determines on where you're last. Say if you bought last at 22, which means you missed down here because on this day, when you've seen, oh, it's 15.16 area, nope, I'm waiting for 12, you might be saying, and then you didn't get it. Okay, that's part of the game. But if that's the case and you were here, then maybe you were like, okay, I'm waiting for 12 or I'm waiting for, say, 35. Well, on this day, you'll be asked the question, if you didn't already had sold the next day, and even if you did, you sell again. But at 27 and a half, do I sell again at 43? And oftentimes it's going to be like, this sell here, yeah, I'm going to sell again. And if you sold this day, you're like, okay, do you want a little bit of retracement? Maybe, maybe not. Oh, and then when you look at it from this perspective, okay, what do we see in here? No, I don't want to. I'll wait for a better move. So let's just assume it's at the end of the day. You got off work, you had your dinner, steak and potatoes, or whatever else it was, and then you're like 36. Nope. So you do your nightly thing. Maybe you watch a movie. Maybe you do this. You do that. You get up. You go. You do this. You don't even check the computer. You don't even check the markets. You do your thing, you go to work, you come back, you have your meal, and then you check the market. Last night it was okay. I was about 36 and change. What is it today? Yeah, 12.78. You're like, oh my goodness, what a ratio trade. That's what it comes down to. And if you're doing it on a day by day basis, then what's the intraday moves going to be? Because the advantage of waiting is just having spots like that. The disadvantage to just being there every day at the computer is, oh, I'm going to trade at 30. Oh, I'm going to trade at 24. I'm going to trade at 20. I'm going to trade at 16. I'm going to trade at 12. And that'll still work in the long run doing that. But the profits of person A versus person B in this scenario, the one who just waited a day is going to do better in this exchange. But as you can see in here on the intraday trader over somebody who just is checking several times a day, what are you doing in this situation here? What's the market conditions going to give you? We've already seen that you would have been around the 9 number. The next day it'd go to 13. So you could pick away at a little bit in this spot. Now, what this came back to, we know it went from 15 to 13. There's a good chance that all you got is just maybe one or two sells here, and that's it. And then you get another one here. And in this case of, say, the person who waited for this day here, just think of how you could say it's luck, and a lot of it is going to be luck. You're going to have a lot of good and bad luck when you play this game this way. You're going to miss situations like, oh my goodness, I barely missed it, or I wish I was there 4 hours ago. Or you might miss the Theta November 30th event. I didn't get anything on that. Okay, that'll happen on bad luck. But here you're like, okay, so I bought a 1278 after I traded last at around 44. What a trade you made. And then you're like, okay, do I get more here? Maybe you get a little bit. But let's just look at if you get a little bit or not. Because before the event here happens, do you sell up here? Well, maybe that little bit that you bought here, that little bit you sold there, okay, that's fine. But if you bought here at 1260, you're not selling at 15. No way, no how. So it's not even maybe, but at least here you got 28. Oh, okay. So this day it was a close of 1278. This day it was 28. So these trades where you're like, if I'm trading my funny way of just going like, just let's have fun with it, and I was trading that way, I mentioned, and I had a spot like this, it's like, okay, trade everything here. Let's just give it a shot. It's either trade everything or trade like 60, 75% of what I hold. That's the funny way of trading it. The conservative way, depending on his percentage move, is rarely ever half, meaning 300% for 250% move for half. But anyway, if this was like a whatever way, like okay, I sell everything when it moves that way, and then in this case here, you're like, I'm going to sell everything on the other side, and then this move here, you can't even take advantage of it because you sold everything. And if you sold maybe 67 or 70% or something, I mean, you're going to wait for a better move to liquidate what little bits you kept. But now you're at the point where like, okay, an aggressive sell can come into play again. Now, of course, aggressively selling here, opportunity back here. But selling normal every single day, this was a spot going 78 back down to 17. Okay, next thing that I'm thinking is Wabi, because my research on it a few weeks ago was it was volatile as anything. So I'm just going to pause it for a second. And let's just think of something to look it up against. I'm just trying to think of something offhand. How about the chain link? Just for something of curiosity. So I'll click on chain link, give it a look first. It's been doing pretty good lately, I think. It's having its pullback, but I mean everything is as well. I mean, when markets break resistance, and here's the situation, you see it, nice little hold here, little failed breakdown. Oftentimes for failed moves can create fast moves, but let's take a look at what this looks like against Wabi. So I divide this against WABI. That's not. I guess it is. Yeah, that's it. So what kind of volatility do we get here? Well, with Chainlink dominating, it's been that going straight up. The volatility. Okay, close to 1 down here. We got 60 now. It was like 18. Move from point high to point low. Well, 1 was the low. 4.5 was the high. Not bad. And then one thing you can do is just say, well, if I was to be day trading it then, well, right now, how's the day trading on it? Well, within just this little move in here, we got volatility just for little bits move 16 down to like 14, a little bit over 10%. Of course, I'm not sure. Chainlink, of course, is very volatile right now. But if I just do something like this and just go back in time, just these little types of moves in here, you get a look. These big up and down choppy moves happen more on the ratio trade. And these things is really what you're looking at because you can call them nonsensical moves in that. At least, I mean, what's the deal with this? I mean, you didn't really have to break this resistance, but we still had a good low. 183 go to 216. 17 plus 16 is 33. That's 15%. And it's still nothing fantastic, but it's still able to be, oh, I can pick away at it. Oh, it's at 211. Let's sell. And then, oh, later it's like, oh, we're down to 191. That's maybe 10%. If it were for me, yeah, I've been doing like anything over 7, so that would work out for me. And when you're playing 7% moves, it's always about that for me. As I showed before, how amazing it is when you get, well, I was showing 70% moves and whatever, down moves anyway. And when you're looking for moves here like 7%, 10%, you're picking away at this, getting whatever you can. That's fine. But when a move of major proportions presents itself, that's when you can change the way, like, okay, let's just change this up a bit here. Volatility, and this not this case, but if it's rising where I can go for 10, 12, 20, 50% moves, if they happen, they happen. And even when you're doing this, as long as you don't got automated trading bots in there, and if you do, you'd have to customize the bots to recognize these situations. That is, you go to sleep, you go here, you do this, you spend time, or a market just does phenomenal things in 7, 10 minutes itself. And you're like, oh wow, look at this move. Okay, I want an 8% trade, and I'm getting in a 28% trade. And or you just had a 28% move in 4 minutes, and that can happen. Not often, but these conditions in this environment, the likelihood that it doesn't happen over a significant period of time is like the likelihood of never flopping a flush in 1,000 plus straight poker hands. It's just going to happen at some point. Just the law of numbers is another way of putting that. Anyway, much longer than anticipated once again. But I covered a lot as far as just working amongst the ratio trade again. I'm so satisfied so far with at least being able to have these charts because it really does help put things into a lot of perspective along the way. And have just another thing too. I mean, I looked at these things. They were like, man, like just things like the Renkos. The timing dates don't make sense, but that's the interesting thing. But it colors them in whatever like this. There's a few of them. I'm trying to get a grasp of some of these. I'm really having a difficult time with it, but it is what it is. Uh, some of it is like is base. No, not baseline. Candles like this, a little interesting. Makes it maybe a little bit clearer to see if I compare this to say this. I don't know. I mean, it draws the same picture pretty much, which is what it comes down to. Thank you for tuning in. Have yourself a great day. Bye bye.